Tell me about your boyfriend, Brad Pitt. What's the deal going there? How's that? What kind of a guy is he? Is he a nice guy?
He's the best.
How did you guys...
This is the confession no one ever expected Brad Pitt to make, especially not now. After years of carefully worded interviews and guarded answers, he finally let the truth slip. According to Pitt, one woman stood above all the rest, long after the fame, the marriages, and the heartbreak. And that woman, he admits, was Gwyneth Paltrow, the love he never truly got over. Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow's paths first crossed in 1994, at a moment when both were rising talents, poised on the edge of superstardom. Their initial connection reportedly formed during early table reads connected to Legends of the Fall, a sweeping epic that placed Pitt firmly in Hollywood's spotlight. While Paltrow's involvement in the project was brief and ultimately did not lead to a starring role, those early meetings introduced the two actors in a low-pressure, professional setting, one that quietly planted the seed of a future relationship. That seed took root soon after when they were cast together in David Fincher's dark, psychologically intense thriller C7N. Filmed in 1994 and released in 1995, the movie paired Pitt and Paltrow as a married couple navigating the emotional fallout of a grim and morally suffocating world. Pitt played Detective David Mills, a passionate and impulsive newcomer to the police force, while Paltrow portrayed Tracy Mills, his warm, empathetic wife who struggles with loneliness and fear in an unfamiliar city. Their on-screen chemistry was subtle but powerful, built on small gestures, quiet conversations, and an undercurrent of genuine intimacy. Behind the scenes, C7 was known for its demanding atmosphere. Fincher's meticulous directing style and the film's bleak subject matter created a tense, immersive work environment that required emotional vulnerability from its cast. It was within this pressure cooker that Pitt and Paltrow grew closer. Spending long hours together on set, they bonded over the intensity of the material and the shared experience of navigating fame at a young age. What began as professional respect quickly evolved into a personal connection. From the very beginning, Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow's connection carried an intensity that surprised even them. According to Paltrow, the attraction was immediate and undeniable. Years later, she would famously describe their pairing as major love at first sight. There was no slow build or cautious curiosity, rather a powerful sense of recognition that seemed to pull them together almost effortlessly. Pitt, too, later reflected that he knew very quickly he wanted to be with her, suggesting that their bond felt instinctive rather than calculated. As filming progressed during 1994 and into 1995, the two became nearly inseparable. Long days on set often turned into evenings spent together, talking, laughing, and decompressing from the emotional weight of their work. The demanding nature of their projects, particularly the dark psychological atmosphere surrounding C7N, only intensified their closeness. Working within such a bleak, creative space required trust and emotional openness, and that vulnerability spilled naturally into their personal lives. They became each other's anchor, offering comfort and familiarity amid the pressure and scrutiny of a high-profile production. Off-set, their relationship developed with the same speed and intensity. Friends and colleagues noticed how naturally they fit together, sharing a playful ease as well as a deep emotional understanding. Despite both being young and navigating rapidly rising fame, they appeared unusually grounded when together. Their chemistry was not limited to public appearances or carefully managed moments. It was evident in quieter settings, where they leaned on one another for reassurance and balance. By the time C7 neared completion, their romance had already become a defining part of their lives. What began as an instant spark quickly matured into a serious, committed relationship, shaped by constant proximity and shared experiences. In an industry where fleeting romances were common, Pitt and Paltrow's early relationship stood out for its sincerity and intensity. Those formative months between 1994 and 1995 cemented a bond that felt all-consuming at the time, one rooted in immediate chemistry, emotional intimacy, and the belief that they had found something rare in each other. By late 1996, Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow's relationship had matured into something deeply serious, shaped by nearly 2 years of intense companionship, shared fame, and emotional closeness. Their romance, which began quietly on set, had grown into a partnership that felt stable and forward-looking. It was during this period, while Pitt was on location in Argentina filming 7 Years in Tibet, that he decided to take the next step and propose. The setting added a cinematic quality to the moment. Argentina's dramatic landscapes and the sense of distance from Hollywood's constant glare created an intimate bubble for the couple. Away from red carpets and industry noise, Pitt asked Paltrow to marry him in December 1996, marking a major turning point in one of the decade's most high-profile relationships. News of the engagement quickly captured public attention, transforming their romance from a celebrated pairing into a symbol of young Hollywood commitment. Following the proposal, Pitt introduced Paltrow to his family in Missouri, a meaningful gesture that underscored how seriously he viewed their future together. The visit was notably low-key and personal, far removed from film sets and premieres. They shared dinner together, giving Paltrow a glimpse into Pitt's roots and family life and signaling her transition from girlfriend to future family member. For Pitt, bringing her home was a quiet but powerful affirmation of his intentions. Publicly, both actors spoke with optimism and excitement about their engagement. Pitt expressed enthusiasm about the idea of marriage, while Paltrow appeared equally open about building a life together. Their comments reflected not only happiness, but a sense of confidence that they were moving toward something lasting. At the time, they were often portrayed as one of Hollywood's most ideal couples, talented, beautiful, and seemingly aligned in both personal values and career ambitions. In a turn that stunned both fans and the entertainment industry, Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow called off their engagement in June 1997, just 6 months after publicly announcing plans to marry. What had seemed like one of Hollywood's most promising young unions came to an abrupt and deeply emotional end. Pitt's publicist confirmed that the couple had been separated for a couple of weeks, signaling that the decision was not impulsive, but the result of private reflection and difficult conversations. Almost immediately, speculation swirled about the cause of the breakup. However, sources close to both actors were quick to clarify that there was no third party involved. Instead, they pointed to real problems that had developed between the two, issues rooted not in scandal, but in timing, expectations, and personal readiness. Both were still young, navigating intense careers and sudden fame, and the weight of an impending marriage only magnified underlying uncertainties. In later interviews, Paltrow offered a candid and introspective explanation. Despite the profound love she shared with Pitt, she admitted she simply was not ready to be married. The realization was painful but honest. She later reflected that at the time she was still discovering who she was as an individual, and the idea of committing to marriage felt overwhelming, even though her feelings for Pitt were genuine and deep. The breakup, she suggested, was less about a lack of love and more about emotional maturity and self-understanding. For Pitt, the end of the engagement was equally devastating. Friends described him as heartbroken, having envisioned a future that suddenly disappeared. The split forced both actors to confront the reality that love alone was not always enough to sustain a lifelong commitment. Their separation was marked by sadness rather than bitterness, and neither publicly spoke ill of the other, reinforcing the idea that the breakup was rooted in personal growth rather than conflict or betrayal. Calling off the wedding marked the closing chapter of one of the 1990s most iconic Hollywood romances. While brief in the larger scope of their lives, the relationship left a lasting impression on both of them. It became a defining emotional experience, one that shaped how they later approached love, marriage, and self-awareness, and stood as a reminder that even the most dazzling relationships can falter when timing and readiness do not align. In the years following their breakup, Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow gradually moved forward, both personally and professionally, though traces of their past relationship lingered beneath the surface. Publicly, each appeared to thrive. Pitt's career accelerated rapidly as he took on a string of high-profile and critically acclaimed roles, solidifying his status as one of Hollywood's most bankable leading men. Paltrow, meanwhile, experienced her own creative and personal evolution, culminating in an Academy Award win for Shakespeare in Love in 1999, a milestone that marked her full arrival as a serious dramatic actress. Despite their outward success, the emotional aftermath of their split was not entirely simple or clean. Pitt soon entered a new chapter in his personal life, dating actress Jennifer Aniston. Their relationship quickly became a media sensation, fueled by public fascination and relentless coverage. When Pitt and Aniston married in 2000, the event was framed as a fairy tale Hollywood union, signaling that Pitt had fully moved on from his previous engagement. According to a later biography, news of Pitt's marriage stirred complicated emotions for Paltrow. Though she had chosen to end their engagement years earlier, hearing about his wedding reportedly affected her more deeply than she expected. She is said to have confided in friends that she felt a mix of sadness and frustration at the time, feelings that reflected not regret over her decision, but the emotional residue of a love that had once felt all-encompassing. The moment served as a reminder that even when relationships end for valid reasons, their emotional impact can resurface unexpectedly. As the late 1990s gave way to the early 2000s, Paltrow continued to reflect on the relationship with increasing honesty and maturity. In later interviews, she spoke openly about how young she had been and how unprepared she felt for marriage at the time. Rather than framing the breakup as a failure, she came to see it as a necessary step in her personal growth, an experience that taught her about boundaries, self-awareness, and emotional readiness. For both Pitt and Paltrow, the aftermath of their relationship became a period of quiet reckoning rather than public drama. They moved on to new partners, new creative heights, and new understandings of themselves. Yet their time together remained a defining chapter, one remembered not with bitterness, but with reflection, complexity, and the acknowledgement that some relationships shape who you become, even after they are long over. More than 2 decades after the end of their romantic relationship, Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow have come to embody a rare kind of Hollywood afterstory, one defined not by lingering bitterness or awkward distance, but by genuine respect, warmth, and emotional maturity. As the years passed, both moved through marriages, divorces, personal reinventions, and public scrutiny. Yet their connection gradually settled into something calm and affectionate, free from the weight of their past romance. By the 2000s, it was clear that whatever pain once surrounded their breakup had softened into understanding. Each spoke of the other with kindness in interviews, often acknowledging how young they had been and how formative the relationship was at that stage of their lives. Rather than rewriting history, they appeared to accept it as a meaningful chapter, one that helped shape who they eventually became. This mutual respect laid the groundwork for a friendship that quietly endured in the background of their very public lives. That enduring bond became especially visible in 2022, when Pitt appeared in a widely shared interview on Paltrow's lifestyle platform, Goop. The conversation was relaxed, intimate, and unexpectedly tender, offering fans a rare glimpse of 2 former lovers reflecting without defensiveness or regret. During the exchange, Pitt openly expressed affection, telling Paltrow, "And I do love you." a simple but powerful statement that underscored the emotional safety they had built over time. The moment resonated precisely because it felt honest and unforced. The discussion also turned reflective as Pitt spoke fondly of Paltrow's late father, Bruce Paltrow, whom he had deeply admired. His words revealed how integrated he once was in her family life and how lasting that respect remained. For Paltrow, the acknowledgement carried emotional weight, bridging past and present with grace rather than nostalgia. With characteristic humor, Paltrow summed up their journey by joking that it just took 20 years to finally find the Brad she was supposed to marry, referring to her husband, Brad Falchuk. The comment landed not as regret, but as reassurance, a recognition that timing, growth, and self-knowledge ultimately led each of them where they were meant to be. What do you think about Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow's relationship? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.